Like, I'm sorry. White women, here's the thing. Okay, if we're talking now, let's for a moment, and this is not going to be popular, but let's for a moment speak of white women. You are not a minority. White women are not a minority. You are half of the white population. You are white. You are not a minority. You might not have as many privileges. You definitely don't have as many privileges and benefits as white men, but you are still a white woman. And every white man, whether or not they're an oppressor or try to be oppressor or not, every white man has a white mother. Some of them have white sisters. They usually have white wives, and then they have white daughters, and all of those white women are part of the whole thing. And you don't get to be like, I'm just like black people. I suffer and I'm oppressed. You're not. You're raising generations of white racist boys and telling them they're the shit and they're going to go out and conquer the world. You have a husband who's probably, a white dude who's, you support him in all whatever the fuck he's doing. You are part of this. You are not a minority. You are fully part of the system. You do not get to call yourself a minority. You're a white
Yeah,
woman. You
it's
are the jewel. You are white women are the jewel of Western civilization.
mhm.
You know, they are what all the white guys are fighting to get and to protect and to like please. So it's like you're saying you're oppressed because you don't get paid. You get paid 70 cents, compared to like $1 that a white man makes. But you're still part of the fucking system, and you're still benefiting
Part
from
of
it.
the problem.
Yeah, you're part of the problem, and you are, you know, supporting your husband and supporting your dad and accepting your racist dad and racist uncle and you're and raising kids. And
It's
if your kids grow up to be racist, that's on you.
I thought back when Trump was running in for the 2016 elections
Hmm.
that I would tell myself there was a lot of talk about how there were a lot of white people, particularly white women, who wouldn't admit that they were supporting Trump or that they were going to vote for Trump. And so, but then I would hear just from different people and from reading different stuff, and that these a lot of these women who were kind of on the fence, they were um, a lot of the white women who didn't want to vote for Trump, but they were kind of like, I'm not sure. And then they go back home for Thanksgiving dinner, right? And they're talking to their dads who are all pro Trump, and their brothers and whoever, their cousins, and it's like that's all it took, right? So to me,
Okay,
I was like, I just wish I were a fly on the wall to sit there and listen to that conversation go down.
no,
You
but
know,
it like now you're also like you're deflecting the pressure like that. Oh, they were pressured into it, and then they're not always. And I've seen interviews with Trump supporting women in their
these
middle
are
age.
the educated. I'm sorry, I should clarify. These are like educated white
Okay.
women from I guess more liberal areas. So
No, but
yeah,
I've
I should.
seen interviews at Trump rallies where the interviewer, a lot of times they're comedians and they're just like they're poking at them and they're like, okay, so this guy says it's okay to grab him by the pussy, grab women by the pussy, and the response. from like a middle-aged woman who probably has kids, maybe grandkids, and is like, I'm okay with that.
The Lord will forgive him. He's not
Yeah,
perfect.
they play they you know what they always use? Well, the conservative Christians use the story of David.
Hmm.
They always use the story of King David, that, oh well, he was an adulterer, and I mean the story of King David is pretty rough.
In like
Eh,
you're talking like the
David
Christian.
and Bathsheba,
Mhm.
like the story goes. So this is what conservative Christians use as a defense for adultery in their ranks. They always cite King David, because there's a story about King David that, he saw this beautiful woman, Bathsheba, taking a bath on the roof of her house, down the street, whatever. He was a peeper, and he thought she was hot, but she had a husband. So he had to do something about the husband. So what he did was he sent her husband to the front lines in the war against, I forget, the Philistines or whoever they were fighting at that time. But he
Mhm.
he deliberately sent her husband to the front lines so that he could die, so that King David could go get that Bathsheba pussy.
Right.
That's a Bible story. And they cite it, and they're like, well, uh, you know, even the chosen by God sometimes, you know, do bad stuff, but we forgive them because overall they're doing a good thing. And I call bullshit on that. I call bullshit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, I just have to add this that I hearing Christians and Jews actually talk about
Mhm.
the different biblical figures and their stories.
Mhm.
As a Muslim, those stories we don't believe them in that manner. Like we don't believe that these biblical figures were you know uh, the way they were described in the Bible. But anyways, I just had to throw that in.
I mean,
So to me,
whether or
even
not,
if you were even if you were using that, it's like it's like one that's not proof of anything. That's not a good way to defend an adulterer. But
yeah,
it's like, all
well,
right,
and also, I mean,
whatever you use to defend, it just shows moral bankruptcy, you know.
yes. And the thing is, if you're going with the religious stories, um, David did get, like, King David got his fucking punishment. Like, he, was on the run where his son was trying to kill him, and take over the throne. So it's not as though there aren't consequences for that behavior. And the
Hmm.
point is, like, you don't justify the behavior just because, like, this guy, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think those stories were written to say it's okay to do this. They were written to sort of, you know, paint this picture of, like, well, some of our, heroes and prophets and kings, they fucked up too, but they also got punished for it, and they repented and were, like, they got their punishment, and then they reformed.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Well,
not to say that, like, it's okay to do that.
the idea is that these people were defending Trump. Women were defending Trump because he
Yeah.
stood for an idea, and that idea
What
is
idea?
white supremacy. It's white
Yeah.
supremacy.
Yeah,
It
because
is
what other idea is there that he stands for?
There is no other idea. It is that you are representing what we inherently believe in, what we were taught as children,
Yeah,
what
white
we grew
supremacy
up to want
and
to
corporate
further
power.
in right to further in our neighborhoods, in our
Mhm.
society, in our cities, in our country, and the world. And yes, that's them. And then you have like the corporate people and their support for Trump, and they were supporting him, you know,
Yeah, but it's all white supremacy and corporate power, and that's really all that like the Republican
which are
Party.
very much intertwined, very much
Exactly.
intertwined.
If we're talking about the Republican Party, let's talk about the Republican Party for a second. The conservative wing of American politics and the Republican Party, all they really stand for, and it's not even like a secret anymore. They don't even try to hide it anymore. They stand for white supremacy and corporate power. That's pretty much what they stand for.
Yeah.
And they're not even repentant about it. They're not apologetic about it. They are full on like white supremacy and corporate power.
So, what I want to also talk about is taking this whole white supremacy idea. We were
Mm,
originally, the topic was the 4th of July and the
sure.
history of this country, the very dark history. And then to look at the roots of it all, white
Yeah,
supremacy, and then look at like how this is also very much evident and present in other parts of the world. And so
sure.